Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It is Rooted in Sports Tuesday. What's going on, man?
And call it, man. What's the word with you, man? Another great Tuesday as usual. Another Rooted in Sports Tuesday, and excited to get going on this thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Gotta go ahead and this is the last week. I feel like it's going by fast.
It is, man. The
But
whole NFL season
season has
blew by for real.
It went by pretty fast. So yeah, man. So we gotta get through this. We're gonna get through this Tuesday, and then Super Bowl is on Sunday. And then before you know it, we're back to strictly basketball and pre-NFL draft coverage. So a lot of exciting stuff today. I think today could be pretty smooth episode, obviously, because we have our Super Bowl pre-show on Sunday. Super Bowl pre-show.
Please
and our
don't
1 year
forget
and
about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a flyer out and everything soon, and we'll post some invites. But Super Bowl pre-show and 1 year anniversary on Sunday. But for today, we will definitely talk about this Kyrie trade, which I thought was just it's great for us that talk sports and just want some content. Like we just needed something to fucking talk about. So we got this Kyrie Irving trade. We'll talk a little bit about King James, who he'll be approaching and passing a monumental breaking a monumental record here pretty soon. And then we have our NFL honors coming up, so we'll make our predictions on those awards. And lastly, we have two teams that haven't signed a head coach yet, so we'll just talk a little bit about those candidates. So that's it, man. That's Rooted in Sports today. Let's go ahead and get into this intro and let's have some fun.
Let's do this. We're gonna run it back, huh?
We're gonna run it back, right? Because it sounds so good.
Word.
So, I guess just kind of really getting right into the nitty gritty, man. We had this Kyrie Irving trade to Dallas. I mean, first of all, him asking for a trade kind of came out of nowhere because the Nets they're having their best start in franchise history, right?
They're currently, I believe, 32. Well, they just lost last night, so that makes them 32 and 21, something like that. But right. I mean, they were playing really well. Obviously, Durant got hurt over the past month, but you know, Kyrie had been playing really well, and they had been staying afloat. And boom,
it just came out of nowhere. So they're playing really well. You're thinking that, okay, they're finally starting to become the team that people envision with around Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And then boom, he asked for a trade. So obviously we know him and Josiah have had their differences. But there was a lot of speculation about different places that he could go. Obviously, when we think trade, boom, ding, 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 everybody's thinking the Lakers, right? We talked about it in the offseason.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about it in the offseason, but that didn't happen. It wound up going to the Mavericks, right? And I want to say they traded Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, they got so Brooklyn sends Kyrie Irving and Markieff Morris. Brooklyn sends them to Dallas, and then Dallas sends Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, 2027 second rounder, a 2029 unprotected first rounder, and another second rounder in 2029. So modest compensation. I guess I'll go ahead and jump into it, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Kyrie Irving is we know what he is and what he represents on the court. He's a superstar. So as you said, this trade request just kind of came out of nowhere. You know, we looked up, we looked up, and all of a sudden it's just like, wait, what? He requested what? You know, like this for once, the Brooklyn Nets this season seemed to be really quiet, and I thought that was one of their strengths this year is that you didn't hear a lot going on as far as stuff off the court. You know what I'm saying? Like they seem to be pretty quiet this year, and then there's this. So it kind of put Brooklyn in a bind. I think this ultimately happened because they weren't willing to give Kyrie Irving the long-term contract and security, you know, that he wanted. And I can't say that I blame them because, you know, no one can question what Kyrie is on the court, but you just can't depend on him. Even now with this trade request out of nowhere, like I'm sure the guys in Brooklyn are just like, bro, like what is this? What happened? Like where did this come from? Like I thought, you know, we were okay. We were trying to stay afloat until Kevin Durant got back, and then we were gonna make a run at this Eastern Conference, you know. But I mean, obviously there was the anti-Semitic remarks, and you know, we talked about or him posting the anti-Semitic movie. There's the vaccine situation where he missed, you know, about 50 some odd games or so with the vaccine situation. There's the instance where they just literally didn't know where he was for like 4 days. You know, he missed a couple games. He just disappeared. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't tell nobody. He didn't took them folk through it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure at that point, you know, when Kyrie requested this trade, I'm sure Brooklyn just thinks, you know what? I'm sick of this. He's a little too much of a burden to us. We're going to grant him his wish and get him out here. I'm going to talk about the actual trade itself. As far as Brooklyn goes, it kind of took them by surprise. So it was going to be extremely tough to get equal compensation for Kyrie, especially seeing how he would have, if I'm not mistaken, he'll be a free agent after the season anyway.
Right.
So
they didn't have many suitors.
They not, or I'm not gonna say that they didn't have the suitors, but
only
they were
a handful.
never gonna get the type of only a handful, and they were never gonna get the type of compensation that would have been equal to Kyrie, right? You know, to a guy of his talent. So they sent him to Dallas. We see the specs there. As far as on the Brooklyn Nets side, I think it'll be interesting in the next couple of days. The trade deadline is this Thursday. I think it'll be interesting in the next couple of days to see what moves, because I'm sure they're not done. It'll be interesting to see what moves do they make from here, and it'll be interesting to see what Kevin Durant does or says or how he reacts in the next coming days, and then ultimately when they get back into the offseason again. As for the Dallas Mavericks, this move has the potential to be special, but I think that it might take them a little bit of time. I think that it is possible. I think that it is possible in the jail.
You think it's boom or bust?
But I do think it's boom or bust. Because I feel like now Dallas is kind of pretty much in the same situation where, you know, now they got to figure out how to try to work a long-term deal with Kyrie Irving in the offseason as well. I think this is kind of an all-in, hey, let's see, you know, Luka got us to the Western Conference Finals last year. Let's get him, you know, a guy, a legitimate number 2, you know what I'm saying? And let's see if we can get any further. Let's see if we can make a finals run, possibly get a championship. So this is kind of an all-in move for them.
Okay.
And I guess one way to look at it, you know, if it works, fine, great, awesome. If it doesn't, then you go into the off season. And here's my concern. Let's say you don't re-sign Kyrie in the off season and he goes elsewhere. Well, granted, now you've opened up a lot of cap room by getting off of Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith. However, Dallas is notorious for not being able to get big name free agents to come there for whatever reason. But they struggle signing big name free agents. I couldn't think of the last big free agent they've signed, in the last who knows how long. On the flip side, let's say, you do run out, you have a solid season, you convince Kyrie, you offer Kyrie what he wants, which is somewhere in the range of about 48 to 50 mil a year, which is what he wants.
He's worth. If he plays, he's worth it.
On his game is definitely.
Yeah.
Let's say let's say you offer that to him. Now there goes your cap space. And depending upon how this season works out, there may still be some pieces that you need to add, because that's my thing with Dallas right now. Although I think it has the potential to be special, I can't just say right now, oh, they're my favorite to win the West. Of course. Because I still think they have some holes to fill. They could still use another physical, true big. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They still have issues rebounding the ball, So although offensively it can be very dynamic, but defensively, rebounding toughness, although I think Markieff Morris can bring some of that for him, I do see them maybe kind of, struggling there. So it's a real all-in move for Dallas, and we'll see what happens. I know I'm anxious to see them, both get on the court together. I believe Luka will be out a little while longer. And so supposedly Kyrie Irving will play in their game tomorrow. Luka will still be out a little bit longer. So
they'll be able to start getting him more acclimated to the system and some of the things that they expect and they want from him.
And then once Luka gets back and they're back on the court together, then we can kind of see, what happens with this. Because I really kind of feel like, and then I'm going to toss it to you, I really kind of feel like if you remember for that short period of time when Kevin Durant was out in Brooklyn, and it was James Harden and Kyrie Irving, and they were successful and the team was successful. And a lot of that was because, and even Kyrie Irving was saying this, like, James Harden was the point guard,
Of course.
He let a ball dominant guy kind of keep the ball in his hands. And James Harden is a little bit better of a playmaker. He's a lot better of a playmaker, I guess, than Kyrie Irving. And it's the same here. I think Luka Doncic is a better playmaker than Kyrie Irving. And so I think it'd be best if they kind of follow that same scenario and allow Luka Doncic to still kind of have the ball in his hands a little more, making decisions, and just kind of allow Kyrie Irving to kind of work off the ball and do his magic and do what he can do. And hopefully we don't hear anything else from him, off the court. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm glad you said that, because I have been hearing, some of the things I've seen on social media, people saying that, oh, you have two ball dominant guys and Kyrie can't play off ball. I said, you guys, he won a fucking championship with LeBron James. And LeBron, we all know LeBron James is a ball dominant wing, playmaking wing. So I don't think this is going to be a bad fit at all. As a matter of fact, it could even be, we're comparing it to what he was doing with James Harden. I think Luka at this stage of his career is just so much more potent of a scorer. It's going to be so many opportunities for Kyrie Irving to make plays and slash and get to the bucket. Like, it's going to be really fun to watch. As far as off the court goes, and I think you can attest to this because you and Amber obviously just moved to this area. I think Kyrie is going to love Dallas. I think it's a really good fit for where he's at mentally. Very free thinking, very progressive. It's a budding Black community growing, right? Of Black business owners and Black successful people. I really think Dallas is going to be a great fit for him cultural wise. So I don't know. I think it's something that could work. I don't want to say super long term, but I don't see any reason why Kyrie can't be there for another 2 to 3 years and possibly help this team get a championship. So when I seen this trade happen, one, I was happy because, I know LeBron was like kicking and screaming because he wanted them. Yeah. But two, I really wanted to see Luka get that true bona fide number 2 scoring option, a guy that can really create on their own and do it at an elite level. Obviously, he had Jalen Brunson last year, but we know he has some limitations in his game. He's still growing. So this is gonna be a really good fit to me. And I think Jason Kidd is going to be a good person that can work with Kyrie Irving and probably demand a little bit more respect than some of the coaches in the past.
Yeah, I think that's an underestimated element to this thing. And I think too, people kind of underestimate Luka Doncic as a playmaker. He's a guy who's, I mean, even currently, he was getting about 32, 33, 9 and 9. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like he's flirting with a triple double. Luka, granted, his usage rate is sky high, but I guess, and it's crazy to say this, I don't necessarily see him as a gunner. You know, I really do think that Luka is a very willing passer.
He just needs somebody around him that could actually make those plays.
Exactly. And that's why I said I think that it'll work best if they continue to allow Luka to be their point guard, their playmaker, you know, especially in crunch time moments and down the stretch, and just kind of allow Kyrie Irving to work off the ball and kind of do his thing. And then also I think you'll see a lot of Kyrie Irving. I think you'll see when they're not on the court together, I think that you'll see Kyrie Irving on the floor a lot with that
running
second unit. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I think, like I said, I really do think that this has the potential to be special, but I just think Dallas still have a few more pieces that I would like to see them get. And I just think that it's really a all or nothing move as far as this year goes. And then as for Brooklyn, I mean, I think it's still questions that are left unanswered because, like I said, I don't think this is the last move. I think they make another move or two before the trade deadline on Thursday. And then it's just kind of a wait and see game with what Kevin Durant, you know, wants to do.
I've heard whispers of like Pascal Siakam, who I love.
And that could be a very interesting dynamic, you know what I'm saying? And to have those type of two long wiry bodies on the wings like that, you know what I'm saying, with Durant and Siakam, that could be interesting, you know what I'm saying? And some of the defensive possibilities with that, the way they can kind of switch everything, you know what I'm saying? Like that could be interesting. I thought it was interesting. There were a couple. Okay, obviously it came out that Joe Tsai, the Brooklyn Nets owner, he was adamant about not trading Kyrie to the Lakers. He did not want to send him there. I think it's interesting that apparently there was a deal on the table for with Phoenix where they would send Kyrie to Phoenix and they get Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and I think a draft pick or something in return. And I don't know. That one might have piqued my interest.
Yeah,
like that one.
Both could have played very pivotal roles for them. Jay Crowder on the defensive side, and they need a playmaker like Chris Paul, honestly, in that offense.
Yeah, because Chris Paul is one of those guys. He's just going to make everybody around you better, the entire team better, you know. And he's shown a propensity in the playoffs, you know, even though he gets kind of up and down, but. I mean, we seen him, what was it, last year, year before last? He had like a perfect game against New Orleans. Like he didn't miss it. He was like 16 for 16 or something. Didn't miss a shot, you know, in the closeout game, you know. So I think that would have been an interesting fit, you know, to have him as a playmaker. And then you could have used a guy like Ben Simmons to really just be like a defender, a Royce O'Neal to really just be like a defender, Jay Crowder possibly, like now you got some guys on the wings that could defend. So I mean, I think that would have been an interesting dynamic there.
But then you got to remember, maybe they're looking more at the long game, and they're like, okay, we can take Spencer Dinwiddie and we can repackage him and move him somewhere else. And maybe you look at Chris Paul and Jay Crowder where they're at. And he said, "Keep up the good work, thanks, brother." And maybe you know. They felt like those guys, their value, and based off of where they're at in their careers, they offer much as far as moving them again to get an additional player or get something else. So I mean, I guess I could see both sides.
Dinwiddie is an interesting player because he was with Philly. I mean, not Philly. He was with Brooklyn before.
Brooklyn before. He was good there.
He had some really good seasons there. Some really solid. He had a really solid era there with the Brooklyn Nets. So I mean, he's an interesting player. Like I said, I fully expect them to take those picks and maybe throw in another player or two and move some guys around and see just how good of a team they can field around Kevin Durant for the remainder of this season. And then, it came out today that, apparently Kevin Durant has been in talks with, the Brooklyn Nets, upper brass as far as the direction of the team and what's going to happen.
Didn't they just have this conversation? They just
have this conversation? He was just this off season. He had requested a trade himself.
Of course.
I mean, the difference is he had just re-signed a max deal in 2021. So they still have him for like 2 or 3 more years. Like if they don't want to let him go, he's just there. You know what I'm saying? By stuck Kyrie, who probably was going to walk in the offseason anyway. So the guy asks for a trade mid-season. At least you can, although like I said, you'll never get, his same value in return. Yeah, but at least you can try to get something. You know what I'm saying? And we'll see what happens with the Brooklyn Nets as we get closer to this trade deadline and ending out the season.
And I guess it's easy to transition because the Lakers were, especially Lakers fans all over, they were just hoping that they were going to get Kyrie Irving. And to tell you the truth, if you really look at it from the Nets side, they actually, even though we say Joe Tsai didn't want to send Kyrie, where he wanted to go, they actually, the compensation they asked for the Lakers wasn't a lot. I mean, I think was very doable for the Lakers. I want to say it was it Max Christie, one of those first round picks, Russ, and Austin Reeves, right? But if I'm not mistaken, they didn't want to move off Austin Reeves or Max Christie.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing too. So the thing with that potential Laker deal is that, as we've seen in the past with some trade talks, the Lakers in the past had been a little bit reluctant to add those future first round picks in 27 and 29 or something like that. Right. Now, I think as the story goes, apparently they were willing to do that with this deal, but I guess Brooklyn wanted Austin Reeves and Max Christie, and the Lakers, obviously, they wanted to get off of Russell Westbrook. And I think the thought of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook reuniting, I'm not sure if Kevin Durant would have been all the way on board with that. I mean, we seen him a few years back, leave because he realized that he couldn't get a championship with this guy. Yeah, so I don't know how that would have went over. That could have been a
recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because either you have them back on the court together, and we know what that looks like already, right? Or you get him there and he probably acted, or you buy him out probably, you know what I'm saying? So, right. Which actually currently, supposedly the Lakers are in talks with Utah now about a trade for Mike Conley and Malik Beasley. And then they would send Russell Westbrook and then Utah would buy him out. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, we still got a couple days for the trade deadline. We'll see what happens with that, but
so they don't want
Lakers. Yeah. Not too many teams. Not too many teams willingly want Russ unless they're just trying to put some butts in the seats. I guess I don't know. But speaking of the Lakers,
right? We're approaching something great.
Yes, LeBron James is 36 points away from eclipsing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, as the NBA's all-time scoring leader. They play tonight, and actually, as soon as we're done here, I think I'm going to watch that game, see if history happens tonight. They play Oklahoma City at home tonight,
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a nationally televised game. So could be a tough task, but a doable task. I actually think the Lakers are going to make a concerted effort to let him,
they're going to force feed him.
Yeah, they're going to force feed him. And because I think they'd rather him do it at home, because I think their next game is on the road. So I think they're going to try to force feed him. He needs 36 points to break the record. And what does this mean for him? I think obviously you know where I stand. And it's not just because I am a Chicago guy born and bred. Push that
you don't
to the
think
side.
I know what you're about to say.
I mean, I know people are gonna say, especially anybody under the age of 30, probably are gonna say, you're from Chicago, you're biased, this, that, and the third. Okay, whatever, however. Obviously, I feel as if Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever, lace him up for the NBA. I think that LeBron has cemented himself as number 2. I think that him possibly breaking his record tonight or in the next game, whenever he does it, I think it is a testament to 20 years now of sustained excellence and longevity and being healthy, making the right decisions, taking care of his body, investing in his body.
Right.
Because even now in year 20, if the Lakers were even above 500, he'd probably be right at the top of the MVP conversation if the Lakers had a better record. But I mean, he's playing phenomenal. He's averaging almost 30 a game, maybe a little over 30 a game. But I mean, he's playing phenomenal. And yeah, man, I just think this is a real testament to someone who's been really, really great for a long, long time, and he hasn't shown any signs of really slowing down. Like, he looks like he could probably score 25, 30 a game for another 2 or 3 more years. It really, he has those commercials, with him against, Father Time or whatever. And it legit looks like he's kicking Father Time's ass. You know what I'm saying? So I think this will be a great night in NBA history. He's about to break a record that I honestly didn't think anyone would ever break, because we're talking about a guy in Kareem who also played for a long time. This is really a longevity record of being able to sustain a certain level of play for a long time. And just to put something into perspective about Kareem real quick before I toss it over. Kareem, and I think the number is like 38,000 some. Kareem scored 38,000 points over, I think, 19, 20 years he played himself.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I might have to fact check this. Kareem made 1 3-pointer in his entire career. 38,000 some odd points off deuces and hook shots and free throws.
And only made
like that is insane to imagine that. And now moving forward to an era where it's taken LeBron, 20 years, and he's been healthy, like he hasn't really had like a major injury where we've seen him maybe once or twice in his career, and that's really been lately since he's been with the Lakers. We've seen him miss, 2 or 3 weeks. He's never had a major injury in his career.
Well, we've seen Kareem actually miss time.
I mean, we've seen him miss time, and it's just crazy that, LeBron has been healthy a lot of his career and playing at an elite level, and he's had this 3-point line, a 3-point shot to help him, and it still kind of took him about the same amount of time as it took Kareem to actually, get the record. It still took him some 20 some odd years with the help of a 3-point shot. It just kind of puts into perspective.
That's efficiency right there.
Yeah, and it just kind of puts into perspective like how great Kareem was. Once again, I think I'm a fact checker while you talking, but I think he made 1 3 his entire career. and he 38,000 some odd points off hook shots and free throws. Like, that's crazy. But big shout out to LeBron. I am rooting for him tonight. I hope he does break the record tonight, and
He'll
I hope
break
he
it.
gets all the flowers that he absolutely deserves, for real.
And like I said, I honestly just look at it from a more broad perspective. You know, you look at him and Kareem were able to do, and it's funny because we keep saying we're able. It's just a foregone conclusion that LeBron's going to do this tonight.
I
You
hope so. I
have
hope
to.
he gets 36 tonight.
I think he's going to get like 40 plus. But honestly, it wouldn't
Word.
surprise me. You need to have multiple Hall of Fame NBA careers to break this record. Not one. You need to have like
Yeah,
2 or 3.
seriously. No,
You know, and it's funny
legit.
because you look at Kareem. Like Kareem had 3 or 4 different phases of his career. You know, and you could argue that he's been, you know, even though he's had the same skill set, he's kind of evolved and been a different player at different times of his career. Whereas obviously when he got to the Lakers, he was the older Staten that was, you know, doing a lot more down. Obviously, he was always a big, but his roles have changed substantially. Whereas LeBron has really, for the most part, outside you can say when he was Miami, has always had to be the guy. So it just speaks to the greatness of both of these players and the consistency. And just to realize, like, even then, think about this. I love Mike, right? And we are in agreement that Mike is, you know, the creme de la creme when it comes to just reaching that highest level of play in the NBA. But do we know if even Mike could have had sustained success over this long, right? Playing at this level for this long, right? And that's not a shot against Mike, but that's just thinking about what these guys are doing. That's tough. Even if LeBron is, we even though he's, you know, to us, he's the greatest player, to many people, he's not the greatest player to ever live. What he's doing right now is out of this world.
And even from a health standpoint, like there's been so many technological advances, you know, from the health field that allows guys to play at a higher level, you know, even longer. Look at Tom Brady, you know, it's allowing guys to play at a higher level and sustain that level for even longer and stay healthy doing it. We know Michael Jordan. I mean, he was gonna smoke his cigars. He was gonna have his drink. You know what I'm saying?
Like he had had somewhat of a social life.
Yeah, I mean, there's been numerous stories of Mike, you know, going and playing 18 holes of golf and having a couple drinks, smoking a couple cigars, going out that night, putting up 40, 50 points. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Mike was just, you know, a different mentality. But yeah, I mean, from the health standpoint, I mean, I think that's the most impressive part about LeBron's career and his legacy, the fact that he's been able to sustain health and sustain such an elite level of play legitimately from the moment he came into the league. You know,
right.
I think there was more pressure. I'll say this. He probably had more pressure on him than any other superstar that ever, like any other rookie that's ever came into the league, any other singular person that's ever been drafted to the league. I don't think anyone has ever had, you know, more hype around him than LeBron. And LeBron has lived up and exceeded all expectations.
Yeah, he has.
And we definitely gotta, you know, I get critical of LeBron, but this is the time where I definitely have to, you know what I'm saying, give it up to him and applaud him and give him his flowers, you know, and give him his credit while it's due, man, because the guy, I talk crap about him, but in all honesty, I know the guy is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The way
great
he's
role
playing
model
this year
on and off the court.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just talking on the court as a player. Like, if you have anything negative to say about him off the court, you just sleep.
You
like,
can't.
You're just disrespectful.
I don't know if you can find me a superstar player in any sport that has a cleaner record. Exactly. You're gonna have to find one.
Hasn't had any scandals, any troubles. He has a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful children. He gives back to his community. He has the school back in Ohio. He's a great dad. He's always at his kids' games. Like he's really trying to be present in their lives. His ultimate goal, outside of, you know, trying to win a championship, is that he wants to be healthy enough and be around and play with his son,
Right.
And I mean, I don't even think that's ever. I'm almost sure that's never been done in the NBA. For a father to play with a son, and just for that to even be a thought that he could play long enough to be playing with his son and still be at an elite level playing, because that's very feasible. It's crazy, man. And so I got to give him his flowers. Give him his credit while it's due, man. The guy's phenomenal. I think on my all-time list, he is number 2. He is cemented as number 2. I personally don't think that there's, unless he can run off a couple of championships in a row or something, I don't see there really being a way that he could catch Michael Jordan, in my opinion. But that's just me.
And I'll say this on a lighter note. Some people may take this as offense. I don't. I think that him getting this is a nice consolation prize. I don't think he'll ever win a championship. I don't. I think that look, that chapter of his career, I think, is over. The championship winning, I think that's done. But
that's gonna be his argument, though. The longevity argument, the fact that he'll be the number 1 all-time leading scorer, the fact that he'll be top 10 in assists, top 10 in rebounds, top 10 in steals,
in every single category.
He'll be top 5 or 10 in every major statistical category, and number 1 and probably the biggest statistical category as far as most points ever
in scoring.
And that's gonna be his argument, statistical and the longevity argument.
Yeah, and we're not gonna hear the end of it. Like I'm almost don't want to get on social media tonight because it's just gonna be a whole bunch of. So I don't know. You just gotta.
But I'm a Barrett man, because he deserves all his flowers tonight, man. This is like I said, when we get off of here, I'm gonna turn it on and tune in myself and see if I can, I just want to grasp the feeling in the arena. I don't think nothing will ever match Kobe's last game, like in Staples, when he had the 60 against Utah in his last game. Yeah. I don't think nothing will ever like match that as far as like a single game in Lakers lore to me.
Yeah.
But I'm just interested to see this game and just feel the vibe in the arena and see how it goes tonight.
It's big for that team and that fan base. Like, that's monumental. Yeah, that's really
and then
big.
To keep it, and then we're talking about a guy in Kareem who spent a lot of his obviously early on he was with Milwaukee or whatever, but he spent a lot of his glory years with the Lakers, and for them to be able to pass that baton along to another current Laker now,
they're keeping it in the family.
I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah. So really, really good for that fan base and really good for LeBron James. So just had to give obviously we got to give him a quick shout out, and I'm sure we'll have more Lakers news coming up soon. But NBA talk heating up soon, so just kind of stand by for that. But I guess we said we're going to talk a little bit of NFL. We got the NFL honors coming up. A lot of people are kind of split on some of these awards. MVP, offensive and defensive player of the year, rookie of the year. Obviously you got comeback player of the year, Walter Payton, all these different awards. So honestly, just kind of making predictions just based off of maybe who we think are some of the deserving finalists. MVP, is I mean, we could say it's like a 3 to 4 man race. Realistically, I think it comes to realistically. I think it right.
Is that really what we're saying?
I mean, I think that's what at first people thought, but to me, it only comes down to really only comes down to Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, who are two great stories. Patrick Mahomes is so great that it's become normal. He's gotten to that place to where all monumental athletes get to, where LeBron James was, where Tiger Woods, where Michael Jordan was, where basically they're at the place where people are so used to them being great that when they're great, people are like, this is just Pat being Pat. And sometimes we have to dial ourselves back and realize, like, no, this isn't normal.
That's not normal. Yeah,
it's
like
not.
What he's doing isn't not your everyday Joe, Dick, and Tom can do that.
It is like it's not normal for a guy to lead his team to the AFC Championship each of his first 5 or 6 years as a starter.
Exactly, and 3 Super Bowl appearances in 5 years. That's
in 5 years.
Most quarterbacks don't go to 3 Super Bowls in their career.
Most quarterbacks don't go to 1.
Right, and he's been to 3 in his first 5 seasons.
Casually.
Yeah, and we're like, it's expected of him, right? Yeah, I think, and I think we'll probably agree here. I think this award is obviously going to Patrick Mahomes. He's been the most valuable player in the league this year. He threw for over 5,000 yards, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions for the team that ended up with the they were the number 1 seed in the I guess technically it would have been a neutral site game, I guess,
if it would have happened. Yeah.
But number 1 seed in the AFC or whatever. I mean, the guy's play has been phenomenal. I think coming into the season, there were so many questions as to, okay, we really gonna see with them losing Tyreek Hill. It was a lot of questions about, okay, we gonna see, what Mahomes is made of, and if he's really that great, because they lost Tyreek Hill, and then the entire AFC West, everybody made these crazy additions. You know what I'm saying? The Chargers with the trade for Khalil Mack, and they brought in guys, Oakland getting Devontae Adams, Denver getting Russell Wilson, God bless him. But I mean, everybody was like, even most. I think a lot of people.
I predicted them to take a step back.
Yeah, and so did I. Like I thought they would. I thought they would find a way to maybe get to 10 wins, but I didn't think that they would still be like the creme de la creme of the AFC, and they still were. And
right.
I mean, you really obviously he has Kelsey, which is the ultimate tight end, the ultimate security blanket. But you genuinely, like, I still can't really say who their number 1 receiver is right now. Like, I mean,
I don't think they have one.
Like, they don't necessarily really have a number 1 receiver.
I think they all fit roles.
Exactly.
It's changed,
guys, and granted, Kelsey is a stud, but he's taking these guys a bunch of, kind of cast offs and maybe 2s or 3s on a regular championship team. He's taken a running back, very nice, but he was like a very late, like a 7th rounder, very late pick in
Pacheco.
And Pacheco. And I mean, he's just made it do what it do. And it's just like you said, the guy has been so great now over these first, 5 years of his career that it's just normal now. Like, we almost just look over it. It's almost expected, almost to the point where you started to see people to kind of force an argument for other people to be the MVP when this guy all along has been the standard.
Consistent, man. Yeah,
he's been so consistent. He's been phenomenal this entire season when really nobody really expected this of that team, but yet and still here they are, right back in their 5th straight AFC Championship game, right back in their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years, looking for their 2nd Super Bowl championship. So for me, MVP, Patrick Mahomes, and probably Jalen Hurts, maybe 2nd.
And here's the thing, a lot of people will, I know a lot of people wanted to make an argument for Jalen Hurts as the MVP, and he had a great year. But I think when we talked about this last week, or the week before that, I think when we were kind of recapping the AFC Championship, the AFC and NFC Championship, I think that when you look at that game, that is the reason why you just couldn't make him the MVP. Not right now in his career, because he is an ascending player in a great system, as opposed to a superstar player in a good system or a great system, right? He's still very scheme and cast dependent, more than we probably want to admit. So that would, to me, would at the end of the day would be the argument against him. He's had a really good year. He's that team's unquestioned leader and franchise quarterback moving forward. But the comparison, when you watch both the games, I mean, Patrick Mahomes was on basically one leg,
exactly,
one leg, pressure in his face all day. I mean, MVS had the best game of his career. MVS was a number 3 or 4 option in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers couldn't get the best out of him. And Aaron Rodgers is a walk-in first ballot Hall of Famer.
Exactly.
And so that just shows you like just how great the level of play this man is playing with. So, I mean, that's the MVP. I think pretty easy. We both agree with Pat. But shout out to Jalen Hurts for even just being able to enter his name into the argument.
And I think next year, he'll be right back in the conversation. I think he'll have another solid season next year. I don't think this is an anomaly for him. I think you'll see him continue to grow.
Exactly, and you would hope that he does. But yeah, so I think so too. So then we got offensive player of the year. I mean, you could easily say Pat. Usually they don't give the same player MVP and offensive player of the year. My guess, honestly, would probably be Justin Jefferson.
And we are in agreement again.
I say this, okay, very seldom, very, 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 very seldom. I could only probably think of a handful of times that I've watched a team and they ran their offense primarily through a receiver. This was one of them. We had last year with Cooper Kupp. They ran a significant amount of their offense through him. Odell Beckham Jr. in 2016. They ran their offense through Odell Beckham Jr. and they made the playoffs. And I would probably say Calvin Johnson through some of his prime years in Detroit, where they didn't have a running game. They didn't have secondary or third options, and they ran their offense through him. So we have to look at what Minnesota has done this year. Granted, hopefully they can improve on that moving forward. But this year, even with Dalvin Cook, who I think didn't have his best year, ran their Justin Jefferson. Like, he was their guy. Yeah. He was their bell cow as a receiver.
And I think I mean they ended up with 12, 13 wins or so, but I think it was a little crazy for me.
I thought it was 14.
Did they have 12 wins? Minnesota?
I think Minnesota was a 14-win team.
No, because they would have been they would have been the number 1 then. They weren't they were like the 3 seed. Because Philly was the 1, seed. San Francisco was the 2. I think they won like 12, 13 games.
As a
matter of fact, they were 13-4 or something.
We can fact check that. We can definitely fact check that. But in the meantime,
I was going to say, why are you looking that up though? I mean, I agree. Offensive player of the year, Justin Jefferson, 128 receptions for 1,809 yards, 8 tubs on the season. He was averaging about 14 yards a catch. I mean, at one point during the season, I think people thought, and a few of these guys shot out. I think him and Tyreek Hill kind of shot out real quickly. They got to 1,000 yards or so real quickly. At one point during the season, people thought that, he might break the receiving yards record.
Right. He was close. He was close.
Yeah, he was right there. And I think that's how crazy of a season he was having. I mean, even to the signature play, I forgot who they were playing. That was like that 4th and 16 catch that he had. I forgot who they were playing.
I know what you're talking about.
But that had to have been like a signature play on the season for him. It was like 4th and a mile, and he makes like this one hand. They force it to him, and he makes like this one-handed grab, and that's just indicative of the player he is. And this is year 2 for him, right? This is second year.
This is year 3.
Year 3 for him. And obviously, there's Devontae Adams, there's Jamar Chase, for when he's healthy, people like to put Cooper Kupp in that category. There's Cooper Kupp, but I mean, this guy has just as good an argument as anybody to say that he's the best wide receiver, in the league right now. And like you said, you don't normally see the same person winning MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. And so outside of the quarterback position, I think that this guy probably had the most incredible offensive year of any player. So he's my pick for offensive player of the year.
Agree. And Minnesota was a 13-win team.
13, okay. 13
they
and
were
4. And they were three. I think them and
they were the 3 seed.
I think them and San Francisco had the same record, but San Fran had the tiebreaker.
Right. Fran did have the tiebreaker. So yeah. So then that's offensive player of the year. We both agree on Justin Jefferson. Defensive player of the year. This one I think is the one that one of the ones that people would have it has a little bit more parity, because you got Nick Bosa, who I think is every bit deserving of the record. He led the league in sacks. I want to say 17.5. Then you got my guy Micah Parsons, defensive end and linebacker, who actually had similar amount of sacks from last year. He had 13.5, but he led the league, if I'm not mistaken, in pressures and pass rush win rate. And then you have Chris Jones, who might be the most untalked about. We've talked about Aaron Donald so much that we forget how great Chris Jones has been the past 3 to 4 years of his career. And this is, I say Richard Seymour walked so Chris Jones could run. They're same body type, I mean, legit. Same body, 6'5", 6'6", solid. They're not fat and pudgy like these are, and they're athletic guys. A lot of people would say Nick Bosa, but I did have to take a step back and really look at what Chris Jones has done as a defensive tackle. And he's had, to me, anytime you get an interior defensive lineman that casually has close to 20 sacks, I think you kind of got to take a step back and if he's doing this as an interior guy, we kind of got to respect it. It's really tough as an interior guy to have 10 sacks, and he had 15.5 casually, right? And then we got Micah Parsons, who I think that although he's had moments where Micah Parsons has had moments where he's looked like the undisputed best player in the league. But
I think early, maybe the first 8 to 9 weeks of the season, like it was him without an argument. Michael Parsons.
Yeah. But he's also had, he's been banged up probably more than we know. And there's been times where teams have been able to, move some things around, slide protections his way, run some misdirections, and they've been kind of able to stymie his pass rush. And I also think, I've said this all the time, I think that Dan Quinn has got a little bit too pass rush happy at times with Micah Parsons, as opposed to roaming them around and moving them and blitzing them from different places, where maybe if he'd have did that, we could have been having, Micah Parsons is the undisputed defense player of the year. But since you leave him at pass rusher, it kind of makes it easy on offensive coordinators to locate him and throw bodies at him and stuff like that. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go the safe. I'm going to choose Nick Bosa. I think he should have been in the argument last year and kind of got disrespected. And he came back and had and really kind of took it to the next level, led sacks, and was just a consistent dominant force. I think he's probably been the most consistent defensive player in this group all year. Nick Bosa.
So first of all, let me say that I agree. I did. I have Nick Bosa as well. He actually had 18 and a half sacks.
Oh, okay.
18 and a half sacks, which led the league, and a couple forced fumbles. Obviously, the two guys you mentioned, they deserve great consideration. Obviously, with Micah Parsons and with Chris Jones, and then especially, I think the fact that leading up to this NFL honors, although it's not, I think the fact that they've seen Chris Jones during these playoffs, and especially this year last game against Cincinnati, and how he was just all over the place and all up in Joe Burrow's shit. I think that'll do him some justice, as far as in those final few votes. But I think ultimately it will go to Nick Bosa. With that being said, one of the guys that we didn't mention that I did want to shine a little light on, who I think deserves some consideration as well, is Hassan Reddick from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now we're talking about a guy. See, we're talking about a guy, and granted, now this is what I will say, and I think I mentioned this last week on the episode. They have a slew of extremely talented defensive linemen. Like they can run guys in and out of there like nobody's business. All of them can get after the quarterback. Okay, all these former pro, like I said, they got Sue, former Pro Bowler. Robert Quinn is a year removed from 18 and a half sacks with the Bears last year, and he barely touches the field. Okay,
right.
They still got Brandon Graham. They still got
Josh Sweat. Javon Hargrave,
Jordan Davis,
Fletcher
Cox. So they have a slew of guys in their front five, whatever, a slew of guys they can run. So it does help. But that being said, Son Reddick, he ends up with 16 sacks on the year. He had 5 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries. So I just thought I wanted to give him a little shout out. I think he deserves some consideration. He's another guy who had a heck of a game in the NFC Championship as well against San Francisco. He definitely made his presence felt. So I just want to throw his name out there, give him a little love, a little consideration. But I agree with you. If it's me, if I'm casting a vote, I probably go with Nick Bosa, who, like you said, deserved a little more consideration for this award last year. I think everybody was just kind of stuck on TJ Watt. Yeah. Everybody got kind of stuck on TJ Watt last year, but I think this is Nick Bosa's year.
Right.
I have a quick question. Before we go on.
Right.
And this is something I want to. One of these Saturdays, I'm gonna throw this out there.
Okay.
Do you think? Obviously, there's still TJ Watt. There's Myles Garrett. There's a bunch of guys. Real quickly, you got his brother.
Right.
Do you think Nick Bosa is the best pass rusher in the league?
No, I think that's a tough thing to just say. I think I think him and Myles Garrett are neck and neck as the best pure 4-3 defensive end in the league. I think that's where their argument is. But to say best pass rusher, it's tough. It's really tough
for either guy.
It's tough for anybody. I mean, there are days where you see Nick Bosa reaching his bag, and you're like, he's the best pass rusher. When healthy, his brother Joey is a goddamn fool.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is out of this world. I mentioned earlier,
he's a freak of nature. A guy, for him to be that quick and still be that nimble off the edge, or he can bull rush you. Like however you want it, you can get it from him.
Literally, I want people to remember this. We're ringing Nick Bosa's bell right now, but to tell you the truth, before getting into that car accident, Myles Garrett was probably the odds favorite for defensive player of the year. He was having a hell of a start to the season. So we got to pay attention. I think everything you're seeing Nick Bosa do, Myles Garrett can do exactly that. They're the same exact player to me. Same body type, big guy, 6'4", 6'5", 280, quick, twitchy athlete. Like they're the same, essentially the same player to me. But I think that is just so tough to say because
I think we got to throw your boy Micah in there too.
I'll be honest. I haven't seen anybody ascend to being a great pass rusher and learn it and pick it up as quickly as I've seen Micah pick it up because he wasn't a pass rusher by trade. He was a linebacker, off-ball linebacker at Penn State. So when I look at him and I seen him do the Reggie White swim over move and throw Mike McGlinchey like a rag doll, I'm like, this is a guy that casually is playing pass rusher and he's never really done it like that exclusively in his career. But so I think that pass rush argument is so difficult to have because you have so many ascending talents at the pass rush position. So I guess maybe we can revisit. One
of the off-season topics, Get back to that.
Yeah. But moving along because we got a few more. We got comeback player of the year, which I think it's interesting as well. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Geno Smith. As much as I want to go Geno Smith, because I think that you don't often see quarterbacks resurrect their careers in the way that Geno Smith resurrected his career these last 2 seasons. I have to, as a football guy, not just as a Cowboys fan, I have always been critical of Saquon Barkley because I always felt like he was a big ball of talent and he was a lot more I don't want to say finesse, but a lot
kind of a boom or bust. Like either it was a 30, 40-yard gain or it was nothing, huh?
Yeah, like and I also felt like I felt like he was a little bit prima donna-ish in a way. But this year you saw Saquon do this year what we've seen guys like Christian McCaffrey do at a time, like Nick Chubb, like Derrick Henry. We saw him become the flag carrier for that football team.
Yeah.
Like become the true bell cow. Like, hey, put it on me. I'm going to carry the load. And I think that's why you have to do it. He's literally got his career back on track. And I like how he talked about kind of being vulnerable and saying that he had times where he was questioned, like, man, am I still the same player? So he really put in that work to get back on track. And he obviously led a team that nobody had making the playoffs. They actually won a lot of games in impressive fashion. Like, this team is ascending, and I think that Saquon Barkley is a huge part of that. He's my unquestioned comeback player of the year. I'm gonna take Saquon.
You make a lot of really, really great points. I can't disagree with anything you said. I think ultimately for me, the reason I didn't go with Saquon is because, we've seen him be elite. We've seen him, be a superstar back. I think at least we thought if nothing else, even if we didn't know if he could be that sort of bell cow, so to speak, we knew that he's a guy who could go get, 1,200-1,300 yards rushing and get another 700 or 800 yards receiving. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew he could be dynamic. I don't think anyone seen this from Geno Smith. I don't think no one could have seen this season coming. And I think considering, what he went through and who he was early in his career, for him to, bring it all back together and to get this here opportunity with a team that I think everybody's consensus theme was them or the Texans will probably have the number one pick in the draft. But you look up and he's really led this Seattle team to a playoff berth. And nobody seen that coming.
No one gave him a chance.
No, nobody did. He threw for 4,200. He was top 10 in passing yards. Nobody seen that. He was 8th in passing yards. Threw for over 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, which was 4th in the league, 11 interceptions. I mean, I don't think, like I said, the expectations for me when it came to him personally and for that team were just so low. But you looked up and quietly, he was just stringing together these really good games, getting a solid running game, not turning the ball over. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Geno threw for 300 today. A couple weeks. Oh, he did it. Oh, Geno's slinging it. Like, he has game managing. He's slinging it.
And he had some good games in losing efforts too.
Exactly. Like, and I think that was the thing. Like, he wasn't a game manager.
No,
like,
no.
They were opening up the playbook and, trusting him, and he was making great decisions and he was winning games. Like, he was a top 10 passer. He was
this year. He was a top 10 passer.
He was seventh in QBR. Like, nobody expected this from him. You know what I'm saying? This is the same Geno Smith that we seen with the Jets and wherever else. I think he had a little time with the Giants. The same Geno Smith, and now all of a sudden this guy's earned himself a contract. Now he's really put the onus on Seattle to think, hey, could this really be our quarterback moving forward? And I think if nothing else, he's went out there, played himself into a contract and earned himself an opportunity. And that's why I went with him, because we've seen Saquon Barkley be dynamic. We've never remotely thought of Geno Smith having a season like this.
I agree.
Completely out of left field for me. And so, I think that's why I kind of went with him as my comeback player of the year. And I throw another name out there. I don't know if I don't want to say comeback player. I would say most improved for this guy, and that's Daniel Jones. Like, if there was like a most improved award, I would say Daniel Jones. Just want to give him a little love because, I've been critical of him. I was done with him year before last, but
Well,
Danny Dimes, man, hey.
I've always held out hope for Daniel Jones. I always felt like he was better than what people giving him credit. Once again, I say he is essentially like Alex Smith, a talented quarterback, got picked high, but was in some bad situation, coaching and personnel. So yeah, definitely shout out to him in the year that he's had. But yeah, so I went with Saquon and he went with. So then we have another one, which we can move through quickly. I think it's very simple. Coach of the year. And that's it. The names is Brian Daboll, Doug Peterson, which I'm tempted, and then you have Kyle Shanahan. I'm gonna go Brian Daboll, and I'm not even. I don't think it's. I don't think it's an argument. He made the playoffs with a team with a lack of talent. Traded away their first round pick from all of a year ago, and still was able to generate offense. He's essentially, we just talked about. He's put Daniel Jones back on the right track. Cut a guy that was known for turnovers, then became known for not turning the ball over. And he managed to still have a winning record and make the playoffs. And what was this year was the league's best division in the NFC East. You had 3 teams, and you could have had 4 teams make it. But
nobody in that division had a losing record. Even the Commanders were 8-1. So nobody in that division had a losing record.
No, exactly. So I think you have to look at what he's done, what he did, and you have to give it to him. Now, Doug Peterson's a close second, but you look at the division, and I think that obviously he was able to. I think that Dallas win was a big swing for them. That gave them the momentum to kind of push them into the playoffs. But when I look at how they made it to the playoffs, I felt like it was more so like Tennessee kind of gave them the opportunity and let them get in. Whereas opposed to you looked at the Giants and they went through a shit ton of adversity and they just kicked the door and like, no, we're going to be in the playoffs. Word. So I think it's a little bit different. And as far as Kyle Shanahan goes, I mean, he hasn't done anything that we haven't seen him do before. Win a lot of games, lose in the NFC Championship.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I went with Brian Daboll as well. I don't think anyone they ended the season. I think they started out like maybe 5-1 or something like that, 6-1. They ended the season 9-7-1. They were competitive all year long. I don't think. Oh, Bo, what's up, Bo? They were competitive. They were competitive all year long. I don't think anyone seen Brian Daboll. I think people were confident in him as a coach and what he'd be able to do. But I don't think anyone's seen him turning his team around, getting them to the playoffs this quickly in year one. And he had some struggles. Like, they traded Kadarius Toney. Slayton was hurt out for a while.
They lost Sterling. Shepard, who was playing good.
Shepard. The guy Kenny Golladay was just a bust. Like it just non-existent. Move didn't work out. He was legit for a long period of time. He was legit Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Let's see if we can break Saquon Barkley off. Let's see if we can get Daniel Jones out.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
No, their number one receiver, right? Hey, it was let's see if we can get Daniel Jones out the pocket and spring him off for a long run or something, But he I'm sorry, gotta so old Bo, man. We love this dude, man. But yeah, man. I mean, he really got them through a tough stretch of the season, and ultimately had them to win a big game or two down the stretch, and got them in the playoffs. And then too, I think it's something to be said, seeing what he's been able to do with Daniel Jones and how he's been kind of able to take a guy, as you said, who was really turnover prone and kind of help him to be able to kind of hone it in and come up with a system and a game plan and simplify things and help Daniel Jones, kind of play to the best of his abilities. And I think that says something when we look where he just came from with Josh Allen. And not that he had, just a shitty season, but his turnovers increased. yeah, we seen him really start to be, turnover prone, especially around the red zone area. And I
Right.
think it's something to be said that he doesn't have that guy, in his ear, that Brian Dable in his ear, that you can almost say really played a huge part in him ascending and
Oh,
becoming the quarterback that he is. And now
oh,
he's
of
able to do
course.
the same. Now he's kind of, trying to do the same things in New York with a Daniel
With that,
Jones, man. Like a true quarterback whisperer.
right. So no, I'm glad you said that because I was about to say, I think that boosts his argument. So
Oh yeah.
Brian Daboll, New York Giants Coach of the Year. Excited to see what he's going to do in the coming years. So then we got kind of boiling down. We got Assistant Coach of the Year. This one is fun. So then you got Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. You got DeMeco Ryans, defensive coordinator for the 49ers. You got Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. One, I'm gonna go ahead and cross Shane Steichen off, even though you got to give him respect. He's been a part of that system. Nick Sirianni is their offensive coordinator. Essentially, he's their play
Mm-hmm.
caller. It's and we see some of the good things that he's doing. And obviously, Shane Steichen is probably a part of play development, and I'm sure he has aspects in developing game plans. But that's why I will cross him out essentially in this argument.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would go with DeMeco Ryans because of we know what he's done defensively for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to tell you my argument. I'm going to tell you my argument as to why I would go with Ben Johnson.
Okay.
One, DeMeco Ryans has just he honestly, even though he's a great coordinator and he really has a natural feel for the game, we know what he was as a player.
Mm-hmm.
He inherited a very talented group of guys.
Absolutely.
And to tell you the truth, if you look at the trend of defensive coordinators that they've had there, it's really just been passing guys on down. And Jimmy Ward's been there, the whole time. And Fred,
I think it was Robert Saleh. Okay, yeah, Saleh before DeMeco Ryans, who went on to get a job, and now DeMeco Ryans is got a job.
You had Vic. I want to say Vic Fangio was there in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And you had one or two other names, but it's essentially been the same guys just being passed down. So it wasn't like he had an empty cupboard and he kind of had to piece things together. He had a really talented roster to work with, and he put things together. Now, Ben Johnson quietly had one of the best offenses in the freaking league in Detroit, and that was his offense. Jared Goff. They were the number one. They were number one for a majority of early on. Even when they were losing, they were the number one scoring offense in the league. But they ended up being the number 4 scoring offense. They were essentially top 15 in every major offensive category. They ran the ball very well. And then towards the end of the year, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I think it's good for the NFC that they didn't make it into the playoffs, because the offensive output that they was putting in towards the end of the season, the way Jared Goff was playing, the way Amon St. Brown was playing, DJ Shark, you still had Jameson Williams in there. Like, this is a team that traded TJ Hawkinson, who I think is an elite tight end, and kept moving. Yeah. They traded a all-pro Pro Bowl tight end and was like, well, let's keep it going. Let's just keep pushing. And that's under Ben Johnson. He's actually a really hot head coach candidate right now. I don't think he'll get a job this year, obviously, because some of the slots have been taken up. But in the next year to 2 years, he's probably going to get a head job. But he's completely turned over a 2-year time span. He's really turned that team around offensively. He's gotten more at it off. People thought, man, when Jared Goff got traded to Detroit, people left him for dead. They're like, oh, he's over. It's done. He don't have Sean McVay in his ear anymore. Don't get me wrong, I had doubts too. But just seeing what he's been able to do, the offense he's been able to build with the players that he's been able to build. Remember, a lot of these guys that are playing good, they're really cast-offs. DJ Shark had one good year in Jacksonville, one like semi-Pro Bowl year. Amon St. Brown was a 4th-round draft pick. You got Jamal Williams, who was a cast-off from Green Bay, right? Like, these aren't like 5-star sought-after talents. So
I was just about to. That was going to be my point too. Is the fact that they really don't have like a superstar. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is ascending. Like I think after next season, okay, we gonna he's gonna be bona fide. I think he's ascending, but I mean to your point, Jared Goff, who I probably think a little higher of than a lot of people. I think he's just a streaky thrower, but he's one of those guys when he gets it going, stand by.
When he gets hot,
yeah. Stand by. We seen what he did to Kansas City that Monday night. You know what I'm saying? But but yeah, I mean Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chark, Reynolds, Jamal Williams, like these are guys, solid pieces, but no one, nobody's. I guess you wouldn't consider anybody coming into the season. You wouldn't necessarily be game planning for any of those guys. No defensive coordinators were losing sleep over any of those guys. But like you said, you looked up and for a vast majority of the season, they had the number one offense. I went with DeMeco Ryans. Obviously, we talked about San Francisco, and you make a lot of great points. San Francisco had the second seed in the NFC. They went 13-4 as well. I think they had won 11 games in a row, something like that, before they lost in the NFC Championship game. And another point, he did take over a team with a ton of talent. He did, but we can't underestimate him being able to just continue to keep that train rolling, because
no.
Not all the time are people able to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But he came in there, maybe tweaked a little something here and there, and I mean they've been tough. You know what I'm saying? We can't just sneeze over an 11 game win streak. That wasn't all offense. They had some. They obviously they had their struggles, with the quarterback. They brought in Brock Purdy game managing. And I mean, he got the job done. He kept the defense afloat and
I think he's going to get it.
Keep them an elite unit. And I think he is going to get it. But you're right, though. I think Ben Johnson does deserve some consideration because I would have never, and I think toward the end of last year, we kind of seen, okay, Detroit might be a little better this year, but number one offense and the way they were, just scoring on guys, like I don't think anyone would have guessed that.
The confidence that they finished off Green Bay with, I'm like, man, that was actually one of the best games of Week 17. One of the best games I watched.
And for them to go in there after knowing, kind of finding out, since Seattle had won that.
All Green Bay had to do was win.
They weren't, and Detroit, once Seattle won their game earlier in the day, Detroit really didn't have anything to play for. But they kind of took on their coach's mantra, and as he said, hey, if we ain't going to the playoffs, them motherfuckers not going either. And they went out there and they took it to them. And you got to love that, man. You remember? You remember when he took over and we was just like, man, who the fuck is this dude?
He's hilarious. He said, I don't care if you got one toe or two, I'm gonna beat your ass. I forgot what he said. He's just shit like that. He's funny.
Hey, but I be got dog, man. If them players don't love him and they're playing their ass off for him.
That team, exactly. That team fights. So I would have chose Ben Johnson. I know DeMeco Ryans are going to get it based off of popularity, and he's a head coach. So it's like kind of like you're talking about assistant of the year, but one guy got a head coaching gig. So I knew he was going to be the de facto guy. I just think Ben Johnson has a stronger argument as to why he deserves assistant of the year.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So then we got the last two. We got offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year. First of all, I'll just throw this out. Offensive rookie of the year. I think it's an insult to the guys that have been playing all year. That Brock Purdy,
yes.
I don't get me wrong. I love what Brock Purdy has done. I've actually been following Brock Purdy since he was at Iowa State, so I know he's a good guy. I know he's a good player, and the story's good. But I think it's a little bit. I don't want to throw it out there, but I think it's a little bit that y'all was able to finesse that. I don't think he deserves to be in that argument. That being said, I'm going to choose Kenneth Walker III for Seattle Seahawks. I think he has probably given them. I think he's probably given them the most. He's probably given them the bell cow that they haven't really had since. You know what? I'll say it. I'll say it. I think he's probably given them the most consistency at running back that they've had since Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
Because even though we liked what was the guy that retired out of Oklahoma State, that had a neck injury. He was their starter. I'm forgetting his name because he's out the league now. He retired, but he was their starter in Seattle. Yeah, I'm forgetting his name. I don't pull his name up. We'll fact check it. But Kenneth Walker, I think, has probably given them, like, he's looked like a true feature back in the National Football League.
From San Diego State, you talking Rashad Penny?
No. Rashad Penny couldn't get on the starting over him. That came from Oklahoma State. But I'll get the name, whatever. But Kenneth Walker III, I think it deserves to be the officer. Came in and really took over because Rashad Penny was actually starting out the year pretty good, but Rashad Penny goes down and Kenneth Walker III just kind of comes in, takes over, and really has a good year. I think if he doesn't get injured and banged up, that you could argue that he probably could have been a Pro Bowl guy at some point. But that's my pick. Garrett Wilson, I think, had a really good year, but you saw him come on a little bit more mid to late season. And I don't think Brock Purdy is in this argument. But that's my pick for offense. You can tell me what you got for offense.
So crazy enough. So first of all, I agree with you. I think that there are some guys that aren't one of the top 3 finalists that is kind of a slap in the face that Brock Purdy is. And it's no shot at him because he came in and he did his job and he did it well. You know what I'm saying? I think if he was healthy going into next season, I think that would probably be a quarterback battle there. That's how well I think he played.
Right.
With that being said, first I would say that instead of Brock Purdy, I would have liked to have seen Dameon Pierce be one of the finalists.
Yeah, I can see that.
From Houston. I think he had I think he was having a heck of a season, and I think his best years are still ahead of him.
Of course.
With that being said, of the 3 guys we have, I actually went with Garrett Wilson. He had 83 receptions. He had 1,100 yards on the season.
He did
4 touchdowns. He averaged about 13 yards a catch. And I think moving forward, I think we've seen this team really kind of take a step forward. Where this is another team that obviously I think they have that glaring need at quarterback. But I think going into next season, if they can find a solution at quarterback, they'll get Breece Hall back, who, if he hadn't got hurt, this might have been his award.
I can see that.
They'll get Breece Hall back at running back next year. And I think you'll see Garrett Wilson really kind of step into that number 1 receiver role, really kind of embrace that thing for them. And I think this is another team kind of like the Lions who, if they can address the quarterback position, I think the sky is kind of the limit for this team. I think I told you last year, I thought they had the best draft of any team in the NFL.
And they did. They had a really good draft.
And well, I guess I'll go ahead and give it away. I think Garrett Wilson will win Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. And I think we'll agree that they'll probably also have the Defensive Rookie of the Year as well. I don't know.
You know what? I think they might. I could see them doing that because he's a really hot name. I have a hard time not giving Aiden Hutchinson Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Well, since we'll go ahead and jump into the last category, which is the Defensive Rookie of the Year. You said I had Gary Wilson for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and
I had Kenneth Walker III.
Okay,
Kenneth Walker,
and then go ahead with the Defensive Player Rookie of the Year.
I mean, man, Aiden Hutchinson was the best defensive player probably the best defensive player in that draft. And he got slighted. I mean, I don't want to say got slighted, but Jacksonville wanted Trevon Walker, and Aiden Hutchinson has shown that he was supposed to be the number 1 pick in last year's draft. Let's say he had 8 sacks. Let's go ahead and pull up this guy's sacks. I know he had 8 sacks. He had 2 interceptions. 2 to 3 interceptions. He had 3 interceptions. He had 9.5 sacks.
Yeah,
and 3 interceptions. Right, and 52 combined tackles. I mean, man, this guy and I said this. he was going to have to walk. He was going to have to do what a lot of players don't have to do. He was going to walk into a defensive room and they were going to look at him and say, "You're the guy." He had to be the guy as a rookie. So he's walking in, protection slid to his side. He's getting chipped by tight ends and running backs. And he weathered the storm and he ended the year on a pretty high note. I guess you can look at what Sauce has done. I don't know, man. It's just so tough for me because I feel like Aiden went into a tougher environment and Aiden was the defensive player on his team all season. I think that's just where it's tough for me. But I know Sauce is a bigger name right now. He's hotter. He's more popular. You know, he got the advertisement and stuff where he got the like he's doing stuff. Like I get it. He's more marketable right now. Mm-hmm. So he'll probably be the choice. But if I was looking at it from a pure body, like football logic, football sense, it's Aiden Hutchinson.
Well, I guess I'm buying into the hype.
It's not hype.
It's not hype. No shade at Aiden Hutchinson. I think that he had, especially maybe the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. I mean, you seen it really just start to click for Aiden Hutchinson, and he legit became like a problem. You know what I'm saying? I just think overall, Sauce Gardner just had the better year. He had 75 total tackles. He ended up with 2 interceptions, but he had 20 pass breakups, which led the league.
So how do you justify that? A corner with 2 interceptions and a defensive end with 3 interceptions and 9.5 sacks.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, okay.
And these weren't tip drills. He took these.
We can't act like obviously Aiden Hutchinson isn't just out there just guarding guys, you know what I'm saying?
No, but they dropped him
they dropped him in some zone coverage or whatever. They dropped him back and
he's jumping these routes.
He was able to, jump through crossing routes here or there, but there's a complete difference between running step for step for a guy, you know what I'm saying, and being targeted down the field and being with him step for step and, getting an interception, you know what I'm saying? That's a totally different beast, you know what I'm saying? Sauce Gardner as a rookie against, he had some games against some really solid wide receivers where he really kind of held them in check. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And I think obviously both of these guys, Aiden Hutchinson, I think went second. Sauce went third or fourth, something like that.
Yeah, they went right around the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Both of these guys had a lot of hype on them, you know what I'm saying, coming in. We know all the measurables. I mean, Sauce is a big corner. He's 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, long. I mean, I just feel like he had such a huge impact on this defense. Not saying that Aiden Hutchinson didn't, because you're right. I think he came in and it was just automatically
having to be the guy. Sauce didn't have to be the guy.
He had to be the guy. Sauce didn't, but I think Sauce became the guy for them. You know what I'm saying? I just think that he had such a phenomenal season. If you look back on some of the matchups that he had against some of the elite receivers that he faced this year, he really kind of held them in check. I don't think we could just
got away with something.
I mean, who doesn't? What corner doesn't? Every corner gets away with some. You know,
I guess I see everything you're saying. I guess the thing for me is just if your argument should be the main statistical category of your position, and his main statistical category, you would say for a DB, is interceptions. And Aiden.
But see, I think that can be misleading because, I mean, there was a stretch where it was unarguable that Darrelle Revis was the best cornerback in the league. He might have only had 2 or 3 interceptions that season.
Darrelle Revis, as the best corner in the league, was still averaging 3 to 5 interceptions.
Because I mean, who led the league in interceptions this year?
It was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and if not mistaken, Tariq Woolen wasn't that far behind. I might have been.
Who's another name who gets some consideration for this defensive rookie of the year as well.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was as consistent snap to snap, which is why he would be. But he definitely could take that damn ball away, and he was like a 5th round draft pick or something like that.
He was. He was.
Yeah.
But I brought that up to say, you know, I think we can't get caught up in that number because most of the time, the guy who leads, the cornerback who leads the league in interceptions, they're probably not even they're not a top 5 or 6 corner in the league. You know what I'm saying? If we were to name our top 5 or 6 corners in the league, we're not going to name a Tariq Woolen. We're not going to name Gardner Johnson. But as a rookie, if I'm naming my top 5 cornerbacks in the league after this season,
he's a top 5 corner.
Yeah.
I do that. And that's a fair argument.
And I think with Aiden Hutchinson, don't get me wrong, I think he's coming there, but his position is deep. You know, we were just talking about all these passes.
But I think it's because the position. Okay, so I'll say this: Sauce has looked great in a year where corners really haven't looked great.
Okay.
So I think that it's easier to push him up the board where we're in a downswing. Like Jalen Ramsey looked fucking terrible at times this year.
He did.
Marshawn Lattimore has struggled.
Took a step back.
Tre'Davious White was hurt most of this year. So I think it's easier to push him up that board where you look at Aiden Hutchinson. One thing I can say about Aiden Hutchinson in comparison to a Sauce Gardner, based on the teams they went through, is Aiden Hutchinson had to get it out the mud. Out the freaking mud. Like he had to walk into it, you know what I'm saying? And we really saw defensive improvement over the course of the season with him as their leader. Right. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good back and forth argument. I'm not taking anything away from Sauce. I love his confidence. I think he is a guy that's going to be a really good corner in this league for a long. First of all, anybody that does some of the things that he does at the school, like one thing when he played at Cincinnati is when they played bigger schools, he was able to blanket a lot of these top guys. When they played Alabama, it wasn't like he was getting shitted on. He was actually holding his own against Devontae Smith and some of those other top receivers. So
yeah,
I mean, it no harm, no foul, man. It's gonna be Sauce because I think he's the more marketable name. Hutchinson did on a rebuilding Detroit team, whereas you look at the Jets. I mean, tell you the truth, the Jets are only not in the playoffs because of their damn selves. Like defensively, they were good enough. They were a better defensive unit.
I genuinely think they just need a suitable quarterback. You know, and hopefully, they'll address that. You know, this year. But yeah, they're really a quarterback away from being like a really legit team in the AFC.
I agree. So that's our NFL honors. Tell you the truth, we have time. But I will say this: I pulled up because we had 2 teams that still haven't decided on head coaches, and I will just run through some of the candidates really quick before we go ahead and finish up.
Okay.
And the Cardinals are down to 2. It was Mike Kafka. Well, Mike Kafka's still in. It's Mike Kafka,
and Lou Anarumo.
Lou Anarumo, and then no. It's Mike Kafka, and and then it was supposed to be Brian Flores, but Brian Flores took the Minnesota Vikings defensive DC job for Minnesota. So I'm thinking it's going to be Mike Kafka, offensive guy, was in the Andy Reid coaching tree. I think he coached in Kansas City, and then obviously he was the OC this year in New York under Brian Daboll. I just think it's too much influence. They want a guy that's going to come in and be able to help Kyler take the next step in his development. And I think they're going to take an experienced offensive guy that, in my opinion, has worked under 2 very talented coaching trees. Obviously, one with working under Brian Daboll, and then you work in Kansas City with Andy Reid. So I'm going to go. I think Mike Kafka will probably be the head coach for the Cardinals. And as for the Colts, they don't know who the fuck they want. they got about 7. They got about 7 different candidates, but one stands out, and he already has head coaching experience. One is Steve Stishine. They got Brian Callahan from the Bengals. He's their offensive coordinator. Wink Martindale from the Giants, uh, Rich Biscaria from the Packers, who I would love to see him get a job, and then Jeff Saturday. But the one that stands out to me is Raheem Morris for the Rams.
Yeah,
I think
from the
this
Rams,
could be I think this could be a job that Raheem Morris gets. Because to tell you the truth, man, people forget Raheem Morris was actually doing some really goddamn good things in Tampa Bay, and I think he got slighted. I think Raheem Morris got slighted. I think he got fired way too soon. I think he only had one bad year and they fired him.
I agree.
And he stayed the course. And to tell you the truth, that was well over 10 years ago. Raheem
and
Morris
if you hear him talk about it though, he has such he's a better man than me. Like he has such a phenomenal attitude about the whole situation and the way it went down. You know, and obviously a ton of people feel like we do that he did get slighted, but to hear him talk about the situation and talk
he
about
took it as growth,
his plight, he takes his accountability for whatever, during the situation, and he has no ill will about it. Like he's upbeat about it, and it's almost as if he knows that, hey, as long as he keeps doing his job and doing what he can to the best of his abilities, it'll take care of himself. And I think that would be a good candidate for this job.
And that was a fun Buccaneers team, man. I was liking that Buccaneers team with Josh Freeman, and you had a young Gerald McCoy, but if he going with the Colts, I think similar predicament. You got a lot of young talent, and here's the fun part: you get to draft and choose your quarterback. I'm loving that for some of these new oncoming black coaches. You get to choose your quarterback, right? And you could probably get to choose a black quarterback, right? You get your choice. So I think it just depends on what that Colts, that Indianapolis, what that brass thinks. But I think Raheem Morris will probably be the guy. But then also there's the chance if I also can't be mad if they choose Rich Biscaria, because I think he got slighted in with the Raiders. I think he had a fair argument to be the Raiders head coach. Seeing what he did as an interim. So I would either go Rich Biscaria or Raheem Morris, but that's my thoughts. But
I think with the Colts, and I think you hit some on the nail here. Although I think Raheem Morris would be a really good choice for them. I'm in the mindset that the league is really kind of moving towards these huge offenses. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that, as you said, for a team who I think we're pretty sure that they're probably going to go, that they're looking for a quarterback in the draft. And I think they got the number 5th pick in the draft right now, 4th or 5th. But I think we're pretty sure that they're going to go quarterback. And so for me, I'm just a guy personally that in those situations where you're going to draft a quarterback and the success of your team and the future of your team is going to kind of heavily depend on the development of this quarterback. In those situations, I personally just like to see teams go offensive with their head coach. Kind of similar to what I always say about, my Bears. You know what I'm saying? I think I told you before, you know what I'm saying? Not that I, dislike our coach now, but I felt, because of the future of the team was so heavily dependent upon Justin Fields' development, I would have liked to have seen us go with a offensive head coach last year. But neither here nor there. I think we'll be okay. Just saying, for the Colts, I would like to see them go offensive. So I thought about maybe a Shane Steichen. I'm gonna say his name wrong. Steichen. I'm gonna say his name wrong.
Shane Steichen.
Yeah. I thought maybe him just because I would like to see them kind of go offensive with a new quarterback possibly coming in. And then as far as Arizona goes, I mean, I think I'm with you. I think although I think Lou Anarumo will be a future head coach. I think he will get a job in the future. I just don't know if this will be his year. I think that we'll go with Mike Kafka.
First of all, I'm gonna tell you this because you know how critical I am of Kyler Murray. I wanted fucking Brian Flores for him so bad. Flores for him.
Yeah. But I tell you, see, this is the thing though, it'll be kind of I would have been interested. Obviously, Kyler Murray is probably going to miss a vast majority of next season. I think that would have been a really interesting dynamic because Brian Flores seems to be.
Act right.
I was just going to say Brian Flores seems to be like a, this isn't a dictatorship. You know what I'm saying? This isn't a democracy. This is a dictatorship.
It's a dictatorship. Yeah.
Kind of like, not to get off topic, but kind of like, I don't know if you heard Sean Payton's press conference yesterday.
Oh yes, he said that's foreign to me. He said, his personal quarterback coach. He said, I don't know nothing about that. That doesn't have nothing to do with me. All I know is about coaches and players, and that's it. Ain't nobody else coming in the building.
Look, man, that ain't what I'm. You know, what I'm saying I'm from a different era. Okay, I'm of a different mold. Okay, all that. If he's not a Denver Broncos coaching staff member, he won't be in this.
First of all, people need to realize this about Sean Payton. He's from
the Bill. Mm-hmm.
He's from the Bill Parcells fucking coaching tree. He came from the Big Tuna. The Big Tuna doesn't play around. So they have a very and don't get me wrong, they actually are in some ways players coaches, right? Like they really know how to connect with the players and they have fun, but they are no nonsense. They quit school because of recess. They're fun, but at the same time, they will be on their players. So he's going to come in that build, especially because he's the difference between him and Parcells. He's more of an offensive guy, a lot more of an offensive guy, I think, than Bill Parcells ever was. So it's going to be a lot. He's going to be on Russ. Don't be surprised if he make his ass give up that office too. He'd be like, bro, the
parking spot. I guarantee you he gives all of that.
He's like,
go ahead. Russell's going to have to humble himself. I do think he'll have a bounce back season, but he's going to have to humble himself though, for sure.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be like, he's like, we got an office for you right down there in the locker room.
Right. I got a quarterback coach right
there. Team 3. This is some nonsense, but we can go on all day about that. Obviously, we got a fun off season coming up. But we just wanted to cover a few of those things. Head coaching candidates, NFL honors, that will be on the 9th. And then obviously we have the Super Bowl pre-show on Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll have the flyers out. We'll send the invites.
10:30, right?
10:30, yes.
10:30 Pacific Standard Time. 10:30 Central Standard Time.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much it. And then as always, every Wednesday, look out for another episode of the Sports Exclusive Podcast. It is here, and I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it. A lot of good content coming down the pipeline and stuff like that. So it's going to be a weekly show. It's not like the Break Room Breakdown was, where it was a bi-weekly. Now we're every week, so a lot of fun stuff.
Word, and then as always, like and subscribe to the Rooted in Sports YouTube page, and it's just simply Rooted in Sports. Follow us on Instagram at Rooted in Sports. You can follow each of us individually. My Instagram handle is iswan_0623. And then we got Tiberius 519. So you can give us each a follow individually, as well as the actual brand here at Rooted in Sports. You can give us a follow on Instagram. Once again, like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Rooted in Sports community on Saturdays via Twitter Spaces, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And man, this is a really good, really fun episode, man. This is a good one, man. And that Super Bowl pre-show is going. Please tune in, because we gonna break down the entire Super Bowl. We might have a few guests on. And we're going to give our predictions. We've been kind of running away from talking about it because we wanted to kind of save it all for that day. So we're really going to dive into that thing. And it's going to be a real fun show, man. It's going to be a really great day.
And yes, sir. So always been fun. Rooted in Sports Tuesdays. We will see you guys Sunday. And hey, man, get your stuff ready and let's have fun for the Super Bowl.
Word. Much love and God bless.
God bless.